Your thoughts now. Okay, if I told you got to bet on one to win the West, as we're getting these two, they're going at it tonight after the Rangers barely avoided getting swept. You putting it on the Astros or the Rangers moving forward?
Well, I don't want anybody to get mad at me on certain things, but I'm a guy that's a big believer in order to be the man, you got to beat the man, according to Ric Flair. He used to say it all the time. And let's face it, in the West or in baseball for the past 5 years, it's kind of been Houston in a lot of ways. I love what the Rangers are doing. And usually in the world, if you give me the field or you give me an advantage, I take the advantage. So Texas has that 3-game lead as we speak. But if I pick Houston to win the division to start the year, I'd kind of be a hypocrite if I decided to say, I think Texas can do it now. So I usually stick with all my picks, but I am very excited how the Texas Rangers are playing. I think it's going to go down to the wire, but I picked Houston at the beginning of the year, so I still have to stay with Houston at this point in time.
At what point did you believe that the Rangers were legit? You're like, okay, Jonah Heim, nice, cute story. Is this going to fall off? Josh Young, he's going to hit a rookie wall. Dane Dunning, he can't fill in for DeGrom. Like, when did you believe that the Rangers were legit this season?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a when moment, like through a certain period of games. But look, when I did the piece on Seager and Simmons the other day, it was kind of like a tie-in to yesteryear, the famous kind of shortstop, second baseman combinations, or the ones that had tenure, together, were all drafted by that team. And the Rangers went this route of going free agents. And, if the two of them play together for the Simeon 7 years, that's a pretty good run, to have in your middle infield combination. I've always said this, they're going to go well as those two guys go well. But with that said, all the people that you mentioned, and when you're talking about add-ins and pitch-ins and everything else, teams that are good have to have that. You can't just have two. It's not the yesteryear game that we used to live in where the 3-4 could do some carrying. They moved that all around anyway. But I love the fact that they are where they are. I love the fact that these guys have pitched in. And now they're at a point when you talk about a time period, they've done it long enough for me to say, you know what, they're not going away. This is a pretty good squad right here. And is it possible that when this thing's all said and done, if they do win it, could Ezequiel Duran end up being the MVP of that team, just being able to fill in and do his thing because he's playing really well? And now with Seager on the shelf again for a little bit of time, he's going to have to fill those shoes. And seemingly he's been doing okay at that.
With Seager and, with him being out of the lineup, I know there's been back and forth with analytics and whether there's such a thing as lineup protection or not. What do you think? Is that something that really could play into, hurting the lineup with him being out, or does that protection thing not exist?
Look, the analytics that you said, and you brought it up, it's nowadays analytics is a noun because it's the analytics. In my day, and Bruce Bochy's day, because you've been around Bruce now, that he's been down there. He's an old school crusty dude. But what he will do is he will verb it. He will analyze things. So give him information, let him analyze it like a baseball guy would. So the protection thing, there is something to be said for who's hitting behind you, and you have to deal with certain things in the lineup. But if guys keep pitching in and guys are on base in front of guys coming up in the lineup, it gives the manager of the other team less options. So not only is there protection from behind, there's also protection in the front. So if you constantly have guys on base, we're not going to see the Barry Bonds treatment when Greg Olson was pitching in Arizona for Buck Showalter when he walked him with the bases drunk and gassed in a run. The options, it was still there for Buck, but the options are limited. So, yes, I do believe in protection, but I also believe in if you have people on base in front of those guys, sometimes it doesn't matter who's hitting behind because you can't mess around too much when guys are constantly on base in front of people.
We're talking with Bill Ripken from MLB Network, also former Texas Ranger Bill Ripken. Do you ever get a chance to come back to Texas to be around the Rangers at all?
I have not had that opportunity. I've been somewhat busy doing certain things with our amateur baseball stuff and Ripken baseball and up here at the network. I will say this. I've always enjoyed my time down in Texas. I was there 3 years, 93, 94, 97. What was strange to me is when I played in the old ballpark in Arlington in 93, what did we do? I played in Baltimore 91, which was Memorial Stadium. We closed that down. We went to Camden Yards in 92. I went to the old ballpark in 93, and then we opened up the newer, older ballpark in 94. So I had 4 different parks in 4 years with 2 teams, the way that rolled out. But that old ballpark, when my father managed there, when it was the Fort Worth Spurs, way back in the day, they did some sprucing up on it, but I believe that was the same location. So I remember Texas very fondly, always.
Did anything else compare to playing outside in that stadium around the league?
What do you mean
with the heat?
outside?
With the heat, now that they have the dome and the roof, was it a beating? Was it brutal?
You know what? I grew up in Baltimore, and there's days in August where it was 95 degrees and 98% humidity, which was just nasty. And Texas, I never minded the heat, although you could turn around and look at the scoreboard and see it was 98 degrees at 7 o'clock at night. It seemed like once that sun got over the stadium edge and it wasn't hitting you, it seemed okay. It was definitely hot. I mean, it was burn your eyebrows off your face heat when you was like oven, but it didn't bother me as much comparatively when I was playing in Baltimore in August. Those days, I just remember sitting in the dugout just sweating.
Yes.
It didn't matter how many fans were blowing in the dugout or not. So the heat, hot, yes. It just didn't bother me personally as much as the Baltimore Heat did.
You mentioned Ezequiel Duran a few minutes ago. He has been so crucial for the Rangers this year. He's been absolutely fantastic at the plate for them. They have had a little bit of this log jam in the middle, obviously, with Seager and Simeon, even Seager hitting this short stint on the IL. But as we get closer to the deadline, and the Rangers are obviously looking to add pitching and strengthen their rotation and their bullpen, if teams are calling around and saying, hey, in addition to some prospects, we want Ezequiel Duran in a deal too, is he somebody that you think has been crucial enough to what the Rangers are doing that you'd say, man, I'd be really hesitant to move him?
You know what? I'd be hesitant to move him simply because a little bit of the history of Seager kind of going on the IL from time to time. Look, if he didn't have that, Simeon's been as durable as anybody, I think, lately, going out there and running out there. And I am a proponent of running people out there. If you got donkeys, you ride them. And if I look back no farther than the 2 World Series winners, and you look at what Houston did, Dusty Baker put Gurriel, Altuve, Pena, and Bregman out there every single day. And then you got Tucker playing the outfield every day. Yordan Alvarez either DH or playing the outfield every day. He had that luxury. He did it. The year before that, you look at the Atlanta Braves. Those boys go out there and they got 160s in their games played column. So I'm a big fan of having that. But this Ezequiel Duran dude, since he's come there and since he's been filling in, and he might be needed to fill in again, I don't know if I want to test fate or tempt fate, shall we say, with that move. Now, always in the front office, you want to make your club better. And if there's a trade out there where you think this could get me over the hump, then I'm going to go all in on that and say by all means. But I'd be looking right now, it's got to really kind of make a lot of sense for me in a lot of different ways for me to move that dude because he's been pretty valuable.
Do you expect the Mets to unload Verlander and Scherzer?
I don't know how they would. Look, I'm at 30,000 feet looking at that situation, even though right now I'm sitting in Secaucus, New Jersey, which is not too far away from either of the New York teams. But I just look at that. Do you want to eat that money? Do you want to say, okay, this was a fluke. A lot of things have gone wrong. I'm going to hold on to these dudes one more year because I'm going to say things are going to righten themselves later. Once again, you're trying to make your team better always, but I think there's some teams out there, because neither one of them have been Cy Young. I think they're still doable. I think they're still worthy of teams looking at. But how much money do you have to throw that way to get rid of them? Because I don't think teams are just going to necessarily jump on board and take all that contract. So I think it's a double whammy, where I think that Stevie Cohen made a commitment to the city, to the fan base, saying we're going for it. And I think that he was a part of those decisions on both of those guys. So he might have to sit there and say, you know what, let's roll with it one more year and see if I can't catch something. Because I think we all agree, if those two dudes are right, it'd be nice to make a postseason, because I think if those two dudes are right and they can go out there and match up with anybody else's 1-2, then you got something. But they're reeling right now. It's not so attractive in Metland.
Bill Ripken, MLB Network, here on the home of the Rangers with Shan and RJ, 105.3 The Fan. How are you viewing, Bill, the Ohtani situation? The Rangers keep getting thrown into this. We're like, we don't want to just, pay all this for a rental, but does Shohei, prefer to be in a market like this where we're not going to necessarily be, New York or Philly or Boston? Does he have to be in the limelight? Is this destined for the Dodgers or the Yankees? How are you viewing this whole Ohtani situation?
The pitching side of it, so is going to be the key. Does a team that thinks, because he got hit a little bit last one, he still goes up to home plate and does all kinds of damage, but what are you looking for? I think if you're going to pay the ransom for the 3-month rental, the 2-month rental, you got to be almost banking and guaranteeing he's doing both. He's going to go out there on the bump. He's going to go at home plate and do his damage. So I don't know how much of that future you want to risk in that situation, because I think that's still a little bit iffy in that world, especially for that rental. And, the Angels are not going to move him unless they feel like they're getting back probably what they should and maybe more. And I think it's going to be tough right there. I think some of the West Coast teams are going to have an advantage over anybody, simply because they might feel like they have the means to get him buttoned up long term. But it's an interesting one to watch. I don't know how the Angels can do it, move him. I think right now with Trout on the shelf, he's the only draw coming in for them. So it's an amazing thing to see what Ohtani's been able to do in his career. I think when he first came over, I was of the mindset, you know what? It could be pretty cool if he could close, DH and then close, hit a home run in the 8th, walk out there in the pen, come back in and throw the 9th and get the save. But what he's been able to do, I think truly it blows my mind. I'm sure it blows everybody else's, because if you look at him, is he a top 5 pitcher? Yeah. Is he a top 5 hitter? Yeah. I don't think we've ever seen that in the game, and I'm not so sure we're ever going to see it to this level ever again.
It's not very often when I get to talk to somebody else from Maryland, so I'm very happy. No one out here knows what Maryland actually is, so I grew up Eastern Shore. You guys are gods out there with the whole Ripken family, your pops, of course, included. Keep up the great work on MLB Network. We love all you guys over there, and thanks for joining us, Bill. We appreciate it.
So the Maryland folk, now I would say this, because I think Texas is probably number one in the state pride flag of the flags going. And then Maryland and South Carolina might be tied for second, because there's all kinds of Maryland flags everywhere.
Yes.
And the other thing that you probably run into down there, you might be able to get some blue crabs, but when you talk about steamed with Old Bay,
oh no,
they probably look at you like you got 3 heads, because they want to put butter and garlic and boil them.
Bill,
come on, man.
I won't eat crab cakes in this state. They put green peppers and like chopped carrots and stuff in there, and I'm like, what are you talking about? My wife, I fought with her at our wedding. I had it in Maryland, Eastern Shore, and I said, we had a flagpole at this bed and breakfast. I said, I want to put both these flags up. And she despises the Maryland flag so much. She thought
it's a very busy flag.
It's a very busy flag.
It's
very busy, but I said, I love it. I want that daggone flag flying here. And she had to win the battle with Texas taking over Maryland.
Well, last Friday, just to make you a little bit jealous, we took some friends over. Well, my friends took me over because they got the boat. I don't. And we went over to Rock Hall, and we beat up some crabs at Waterman's, and they were as good as I've ever had over there. Big, thick, heavy, seasoning perfect. So I know you're having a good time down there in Texas, and I ain't mad at you for that. But Maryland does have a few things, even if crabs are at the top of the list. So be it. I'll take it.
And then we got to teach next about vinegar on the fries. We got to teach them about thrashers, but that's a discussion for another day. Thank you for letting me reminisce, Bill. Keep up the great work.
All right, boys. Have a good day.